This is Sutton Ridge. In 2011, with the help of friends and 4 generations of the Ford family, 1,750 vines were planted by hand on a warm, sheltered, south-facing slope. In this playlist, I'm going to follow the family and the vineyard through the seasons to see how it changes.
Hi everyone, welcome to Hunter Gatherer Cooking. I'm down here at Sutton Ridge Vineyard today, and the plan is to try and show you over the next sort of 12 months exactly what life in a vineyard looks like, certainly over the months and the seasons. So I'm here to meet Luke and his family to introduce what effectively March looks like, which is obviously where we're starting. And really today's episode is going to be a little bit about the introduction to the vineyard, and certainly Luke, and he's going to show us some pruning and obviously sort of setting us up for things to come, and hopefully a little bit of tasting. I know that a lot of the bottles that Luke has made has gone now, so he's told me that he's got 1 or 2 left that we can try until the new wines come in very, very soon.
So here we are in Sutton Ridge Vineyard. I'm Luke Ford, and I planted the vineyard with the help of some family and friends in 2011. We have 5 different varieties in the vineyard. That's quite a lot for the size of the vineyard, but we didn't know what varieties were going to suit the site and also with the style of wines we wanted to create. So we sort of spread our bets a little bit. So over the far side is our red block, where we have a variety called Regent, which you may not have heard of, but it's a German hybrid. It ripens really early and it's got good resistance to mildew, so we're not having to put loads of sprays on the vines. Then the next vines over are Pinot Noir, which is a variety you've no doubt heard of. We use it for our sparkling wine. Then we come across into the white varieties, and our first one is Phoenix, which again, another German hybrid, so produces loads of really big juicy fruit and doesn't require a lot of sprays. And then we move into our Bacchus. Bacchus is the flagship white variety for the UK, gets compared to French Sauvignon quite a lot. It's got really nice aromatic flavours. And then finally we move into our Seyval Blanc. Seyval Blanc is a great variety for the UK. It works really hard, produces loads of fruit, slightly high acidity, which is perfect for sparkling wine, and hence why we put it into our vintage sparkling wines. So this is one of our 11-year-old Phoenix vines here, and the vine, it's got 3 main parts. So we've got the graft union down here, this knobbly bit. Everything below that going down into the ground is the rootstock. So vines aren't planted on their own roots, you choose a rootstock to suit your soil. And here we're on quite a fertile soil, so we actually wanted a rootstock that's poor, taking up nutrients, so the vine isn't overwhelmed with canopy growth and will put more energy into the fruit. We then here have the trunk of the cultivar, which is the variety, so Phoenix. Now this is the original trunk which we developed in year 1, so that's 11-year-old wood. And then here we have the fruiting arms, which we tied down ready to go for this year. So these are canes from last year, and what will happen is hopefully in mid-April, all these little buds along the arm here will produce a new cane, and each cane will have 1 or 2 bunches on. We do have rose bushes in the vineyard. Now these are here just for aesthetic purposes, but originally roses were planted in vineyards because they're more susceptible to mildew than the vines. So if you saw mildew developing on the roses, you knew it was time to act and spray the vines. Right. However, man being man has played around and propagated roses which are no longer susceptible to mildew, so they're not the good early indicators that they used to be. Okay, so these are our new Pinot Noir vines. They went in last May. These will hopefully be used to produce red wine in a few years' time. So we've kept the soil fairly bare underneath. That's just to reduce any competition for the vines. And the first year has been all about establishing a really good, strong trunk, because this will remain throughout the vine's life. So we've got a nice cane coming up here and good growth up to the top. So what we'll do is we'll come through and we're going to end up cutting off to about there, and we'll take it off and get it off. And then what we'll do is we'll tie the vine down like so. And then that one will be ready to go for this next year. So we'll allow these first 3 or 4 buds here to produce a cane, just to get the vine used to producing a canopy, and we might put a few little bunches on it as well. So we put these protected tubes on the vines. That's just to stop any rabbits or small voles in there getting in and nibbling on the fresh vine as it's growing in the first year. These will come off after 2 or 3 years because they'll become woody enough that they won't be attractive to rabbits and such. So this is one of our Save Blanc vines. It's been pruned, so we've got our 2 fruiting arms and our spurs here. So the next job is to tie the vine down to the fruiting wire, and we do that by bringing the arm down and just wrap it around half a turn. Then we use our tape gun here, put a nice little bit of tape there and one there to keep it nice and secure. And then we'll come over to the other arm and we'll pop that down and around. Let's take one end and it's all ready to go. So at the moment in the vineyard, we're doing the biggest job throughout the year, which is called winter pruning. And that's to take a vine from this, which is where all the wood's gone into hibernation, to hopefully get the vine ready to go for the next year's growth, like this vine here. So the first thing we need to do is come through and take off about 80% of the vine, which is last year's growth, which we no longer want. So it looks quite brutal, but it's all good for the vine and it helps promote good, healthy growth going forward. So we'll come through and we take out the canes that we don't want, get them out of the way. And I'm dropping these on the floor now, but we'll come through and pick them up later. Do that as a separate job. And we want to take all the wood out of the vineyard because we don't want any chance for any overwintering diseases to stay in the vineyard. So coming through here. And ultimately what we're trying to get back to is we want our crown here to have 3 or 4 good canes for next year's growth. So we've got our 3 here. So we're looking for an arm to go each way and then one to keep for our spur. So these 2 here are in quite good positions heading up, whereas this one's coming out the side a bit too much. So I'll keep this one and it's lowered down as my spur. So there's a little thumb there. So that'll give me 2 extra buds. So I've got more options hopefully next year when we come to do this job after the next growing season. So we'll come through, just removing all the wood we don't want. So now this vine here, it had about 8 or 9 good strong canes. So I'll be looking to give the vine a similar sort of charge for next year. So we'll come up and have a look at the number of buds we got. So we got 1 here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. So we'll come here, cut it off, and then we'll do the same coming up the other side here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. And then that should mean that the vine is in good balance for next year. If you were to leave the arms too long, then the vine might be overworked and the quality of the fruit will drop. Equally, if you leave the arms too short, then you've got too much energy going into less fruit. So it's all about finding that right balance for the vine. So we've got our vines here all ready to go for the next year's worth of growth. So around mid to late April, depending on how warm it is, all these buds here will kick into life and the vines will begin to grow up. Then around the same 2 weeks as Wimbledon, so that's the last week of June and the first week of July, is usually the flowering period. So that's quite an important time of the year. So a nice dry Wimbledon will mean that we get a good flowering, which hopefully means a good crop at the end of the year. We know now, usually winter pruning, if you've got a big vineyard, big commercial vineyard, you'll start pruning in November. But we like to leave it as late as possible because that reduces the chance of frost damage, because the later you prune the vine, the later bud burst will be, which will hopefully be after the last of the frosts. But we can see the vines now are starting to come into life because you can see these tears, look, on the end of where we've made the cuts. So this is basically rising sap in the vine as a sign that the vine's coming back to life after its winter dormancy. Wow, so you've got it there. This is our 2020 Rosé, and it's produced from Regent and Phoenix grapes, and they're co-fermented, which means we put all the grapes in together rather than blending them together later. Which means it's a bit more of a gamble, we've got less control, but the results have been excellent. It's got this really lovely, delicate salmon pink colour, which comes from just a short period in contact with the skins, which give it the colour. On the nose, you get lovely fresh strawberries, and the first thing you'll notice when you try the wine is that it's really dry, and the reason for that is, in our opinion, a lot of rosés are over-sugared, so that's sugar that's been added into the process. So your sort of average supermarket rosé will have somewhere between 8 to 10 grams of sugar added per litre, whereas we've only added 1.5, and that's there just to balance it off and make sure the wine's well-rounded. So actually all you're tasting is that added sweetness, so you might as well drink Ribena, whereas by drinking Sutton Ridge Rosé, you're really getting the fruit flavours come to the forefront.
So just before we go, we're going to try and drive the smart car up, down and round through the vineyard. This could be a big mistake. Come on, girl. We're driving in a vineyard. Yes! So I'm now literally driving down through the vineyard in the smart car. So I hope you've enjoyed this little insight into what a UK vineyard could look like. Obviously they're all sort of slightly different, but if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. That would mean absolutely everything to me. And please look out for the playlist, which this will be in, and hopefully the next video, which should be coming in about a month's time, when we're looking out for those new buds. So thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you soon.